Well, hello and welcome to the Movie Paradise. I'm your host, Nathanael Molnár, and this is Movie Night Tonight. Every single week here we watch a new film and we discuss it in depth, with each month having a new theme. This is the first episode of our month of gangster movies in the month of June, and the film we're talking about today is 1972's The Godfather. I'm joined by a panel. With me is Rob Giachinta.
Glad to be back.
So we took a month off. We didn't do shows for the month of May.
Nathaniel was in rehab.
Yep, I had such a hard, cocaine addiction that we had to... No, in all seriousness, I just decided need to take a break with the month because some living situations changed. I need some time to adjust.
He was homeless for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Until someone took him in.
You know how it is. I was a stray dog, eventually got rescued. But we are back now, and June is our month of mobster movies. Or gangster movies, actually.
You did it again.
Yeah, I keep saying mobster instead of gangster. I mean, technically it's the same.
Yeah,
technically it's
do
the
I
same
look like
thing.
I care? You can't
Not
see
particularly.
me, technically.
So, let's go around real quick and say what our first impressions... Between you and me. Between you and me. And let's say what our first impressions of The Godfather is. But first, let me just say that this is a spoiler discussion. We are talking about The Godfather as if you just watched it with us.
I like how you say that.
So, thanks. I appreciate that. So, Rob, what are your first impressions of The Godfather, and how many times have you seen it?
This is a first-time watch of the almighty Godfather that I've heard so much about. And I will say, I'd say about the first hour and a half of this movie, I'd say didn't disappoint. I thought it moved at a slower pace, but I was thoroughly invested in it pretty much the whole, I'd say, first hour and a half to 2 hours. I think this movie is a little too long, in my opinion. I think there are some parts you could do without, and I think towards the end it starts to just kind of drag even more and more, and I found myself a little less interested. But overall, it is a very well crafted movie. It deserves all the praise it gets, I believe. And the performances are top notch, and you can see where these legendary actors started off and then where they are today.
This cast is so stacked. Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Diane Keaton, Robert Duvall,
James Caan.
Exactly. The list goes on and on. Like, there's so many big names, and then of course you have to get Robert De Niro for the sequel.
Yeah.
To play a young Vito, which he's great in that movie in part 2. Going into my first impressions of the movie. So I think this is my it's either third or fourth time seeing this movie. I like this movie a lot, but I don't personally agree with the sentiment of it's one of the greatest films of all time.
I agree.
It's not, I wouldn't even say it's my favorite Francis Ford Coppola film.
Wow.
It's my third favorite, behind Apocalypse. No. The Rain Man. No, I'm kidding. Apocalypse Now is my favorite Coppola film, followed by The Conversation. And The Godfather is third in that.
You like this more than The Godfather 2, though?
Yes, I would say so.
Because a lot of people say that's the best, better one.
Yep. Yeah, I know. There's debate there.
Yep.
But, so while I don't personally hold The Godfather to be, one of the top greatest films of all time.
The Godfather of movies.
You could say that. I like this movie a lot. It's a really good movie. I agree with you. It could be shorter. Oh. It could be.
I feel like most movies that are 2:30, you can always say they should be a little shorter. Because in reality, a movie should, in my opinion, you should be wrapping up your story around 2 hours to 2 hours and 15. In my opinion, but that's just me.
I think
there obviously are exceptions. There obviously are, but in most cases, I feel like when movies are that long, like this one, there's always stuff, always going to be parts where you're like, this is taking way too long.
Yeah.
But that's just me.
No, I agree with that. I don't think there's any set rule as to what a movie should be in length. I think it depends upon the story you're telling and what the movie actually is. But I do agree, in most cases, when you get movies that are over 2.5 hours, that are in 3 or 3.5 hour territory, there are usually some things that can be cut. But I don't personally think that there's a set length that all movies should adhere to.
I'm surprised they. Well, I mean, things were different back then because was he established before this movie came out?
Which
Ford
one?
Coppola,
Who?
The Godfather.
No.
I'm. Maybe it worked different back then, but to let like a movie be this long and put that into theater, or was that like a thing that was just allowed back then?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. Let me put it this way: I don't think the length of the movie was as big of a concern. Okay. I think movie length is more an issue now than it is than it was then. Just because I think, and this is just scientific fact, that people have shorter attention spans now than they did in like the 50s when you had
effing millennials.
Yep. Goddamn millennials.
Can't live with them.
The iPhone generation. But you know, people were more tolerant and understanding of like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour movie. Like Cleopatra.
Was there an intermission in this when back in the?
No, I don't think so. Because when you watch The Godfather Part 2, the intermission screen comes on.
There's an intermission in that one?
Yes.
Oh, but not the first one. Oh.
Well, because that one's like 3.5 hours.
What the? The next, you know when I'll be watching that? When you do Gangster Movies Part 2 on Movie Pair.
Yeah.
I feel like, at least nowadays, like, if there was a director who, like, who's only made, like, one movie or like, even his first movie, I doubt a studio will be like, oh, yeah, 2 hours and 40 minutes, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, I think, it's shorter attention span.
They're more concerned about box office nowadays, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a concern then. But, I mean, and also just the landscape of things have changed. Like, because, and also take into consideration not just short attention span, but there's so many other options for entertainment that people have nowadays.
Yep.
Because before, like, you could watch TV at home, or you could go see a movie.
During the 70s, there weren't many TV channels.
Yeah. And so now you have so many things fighting for people's attention that you're running the risk of having like a 3-hour movie in theaters, unless if it's the Avengers
or Tarantino.
Yeah, unless if there's some other vested reason for a person to go see that movie.
Nolan could do it or something like that.
You have to have some sort of other draw that would kind of cancel out.
You have to essentially,
long.
like I said, like build up a name for yourself in which people are going to just see it no matter what the length is.
But back in like the 50s or 60s or the 70s, that wasn't as much of an issue as it is now. But so I do there could be things cut out. But I think overall I do really like this movie. Like you said, performances across the board are excellent. Marlon Brando is just great.
I agree.
I love it's iconic.
I have to say, I didn't really find him to be the main character in this movie.
No, he's not.
Right from the beginning of the movie, I thought the main character in my mind was Al Pacino. I thought we started with him in one place and ended with him in another place. Yeah. And it was his movie throughout. For the most part. And I really just don't understand why Marlon Brando was nominated and won for lead actor when I thought he was a supporting.
Now, I remember I looked this up before, like a year ago or so, last time I saw this movie. So maybe I'm getting some of my facts wrong because I didn't look it up before this show. But as I understand it, I think there was, when that happened and he was nominated for lead actor, and I think Pacino was supporting.
Correct.
There was an issue. There was.
There should have been.
I think Pacino. I think Pacino got upset because he thought he was getting shortchanged when he was the lead in the movie. And it was more like Marlon Brando was the bigger name, so he got the top billing.
If anything, they both should have been nominated for lead. If anything, but in my opinion, it should have just been.
I think it's kind of a similar situation of Christian Bale getting nominated for supporting for The Fighter when he's kind of the lead in that movie, except it's reversed.
Yeah.
Well, not reversed because it's the same situation for Pacino, but would have been reversed for Brando. Yeah.
Well, I think in The Fighter, Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg were both the leads in that movie, and Wahlberg got the lead. But I think in that situation, they kind of put Bale down in the supporting so he could have a better shot at winning. I think that was the whole strategy behind it. Yeah. But like I was saying, the main character in this movie, the one I cared the most about was Al Pacino.
Yeah. Michael Corleone.
It is his story. I couldn't remember any of the names.
So... But it is definitely Michael's story. He's the one who has the biggest arc in the film. And that's what I think really makes this film so interesting is his development as a character, because when he starts in the movie, he wants nothing to do with the family business. He even says as much, that's my family, I'm not my family.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the movie, he's the new Don, has taken over the family business.
And he's much more, I think, a little more ruthless than his father was.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But, Vito's approach to the whole situation was, let's make peace.
Yep.
And establish a peace between all the families. And then Michael comes in and just wipes them all
shows
out.
a difference in generation, too.
Yeah.
Because, like, the same with, what was the other brother's name? James Caan's character.
Sonny?
Yeah, same with him. He was like, he didn't want to do anything like his dad. He wanted to be ruthless, but he thought too much with his heart, not with his head, I thought.
Yeah.
And that's what ended up getting him killed in the end.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think, I don't know, well, I think maybe generational part has something to do with it, but I think it was just more like the approach, because while Vito was ruthless, because, I mean, he definitely had moments where he was completely ruthless. Like, the whole part where the horse head shows up in the bed, like, there's a lot of ruthless things. But the entire impression you get of him, like, that whole first part, where it's during his daughter's wedding, and he's in there, even though he's talking about things, like, they're talking about killing people and all these things, he's a very, like caring person. Yeah. Like, he cares about the people he's talking about. He's very patronly in terms of how he conducts his business. And I think he even says, like, oh, we don't murder. Like, you know, like he says, I mean, he does, but, like, he approaches it so much in such a different way. He does not approach it in terms of, like, I'm a ruthless gangster, killing people, wiping people out, and especially his aversion to taking over the narcotics. Mm-hmm. Like, he does not want to be in, like, even though they're killing people and he's a gangster and everything.
Say no
like
to
that.
Drugs, kids.
Yeah, just so you know. But even though he is part of this world, he thinks he has some sort of moral standard, some sort of moral high ground. And I think what's really interesting is seeing Michael from the beginning having that same moral high ground, except even more so because he doesn't want anything to do with it. And then he slowly, gradually is worn down and then sinks to even below his father's level.
I think a big part of that is just all the losses he had to take from his wife in Italy, or whatever her name was, and his brother, and just seeing everything kind of crumble before him. And then I think that's what kind of made him snap in a way. Yeah.
No, I agree. I'm curious to know, now that you've seen the whole movie, what your thoughts are on Vito getting shot. Because when we were watching the movie, you had some thoughts.
Well, like, I don't know. Well, first of all, like I said, I was like, well, if he's going to be, like, out of this movie for this big chunk of time, like, how is he the lead of the movie? Like, obviously he's the face of the movie because he's the Godfather and the movie's named The Godfather. But, and another thing, like, I don't know, he got shot, like, 6 times in the chest. I don't know. And he was
5 in the back.
Okay. And he was old. Like, I don't know. I just found it a little, like, how the hell did he survive that? But in the end, I think it kind of still did a number on him in the end.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think he was pretty much out of commission as soon as that happened. Like, he never really recovered.
No.
And I think, I mean, I think it would have been different if he got shot and then they went into the hospital and he's, like, sitting up like, hey, guys, what's up? But, like... That, like, for months, he couldn't even talk. He was just in bed rest, slowly, gradually recovered. And even when he did regain his health, he was clearly, like, had a toll on him. At least
they didn't bring back James Caan's character after that.
Yeah, definitely not. But I thought the way that Vito ultimately went out, when he was playing with his grandson and then had the heart attack. Well, I thought what made that moment so great for me was that it was kind of this final humanization of him as a character. Like, we had not seen his character in that light before. And it was just kind of interesting. Like, you see the whole movie, you see this guy who is head of the business, head of the family business, making orders for people to get killed, doing all these ruthless things. But while we see that family is an important part of his life, you're always seeing it through the lens of family is important to him, but the business is more important to him. As evident by, it's his daughter's wedding, and he's
Yeah.
spending the entire time inside taking care of business, instead of actually hanging out with his daughter and celebrating her wedding, you know. So you see that contrast of what's more important to him, even though he says that he holds family to be more important to him. And then for the way that he goes out, in that last moment, he's just having fun playing with his grandson, like being this goofy grandpa.
Yeah.
And then dies. Like, I don't know. Like, that was just
Dirty
like...
Grandpa.
Yeah.
The original.
Starring Vito Corleone. I just thought that was a great way to cap off his character. Have this final moment of showing him as a human being, and then he dies. And then also that seeing how human he was in that moment is a nice contrast to how savage Michael has become at that point.
I agree. I really the overall feel of that scene was really good. Like, you start to get kind of almost emotional, just because like you can kind of just like see it just in his eyes, like he's not gonna last through this scene almost, just because in my opinion he just looked like so decrepit to what he looked like in the beginning of the movie, and you kind of just realize this is the end for him. Also, I know he's not in the sequel too, so.
yeah, that helps to understand. But yeah, no, they definitely did a good job of really making him look older. Like, I was just looking at his hair and
because compared to the beginning, he looks like kind of fresh with his and then his hair's all like all over the place.
Because it was all, and I think the hair that he has in that opening scene, same exact haircut and style that Michael has at the end. Yeah, like the black slicked back and everything.
The only you can tell, like, obviously he's a little older because he has kind of like what I have, like missing the hair there.
Yeah, But I mean, for the most part, it was the same thing.
Yeah, because he never had like gel in his hair in the beginning of the movie. Now he's got like the gel slicked back. Stuff like that.
Yeah,
he's copying the Nathanael.
Yeah.
The Molnárs play a big part in this movie, too.
Oh, yeah, the Molnár dancers. The
Molnár family.
The first time, I think, the first time that I saw that, and it was like, Molnár, I was like, wait, what? It's interesting, like, you don't expect to see your name pop up in a movie.
Well, Molnár's sort of common. Like, I've seen other people last name Molnár that I know aren't related to you.
Not common.
It's more common than like my last name.
Common for Hungarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't see too many Hungarians out there, you know.
Except in Hungary.
Oh yeah. But in the United States around here, you don't hear about too many Hungarians.
Speaking as a person who is Sicilian, I'd say a lot of the accents, I would say, were all spot on, and just the way everybody like dressed and acted. Like, obviously, I don't live. Well, I mean, at least I don't know. I never lived with gangsters or anything, but I could say a lot of them.
You could have been one of the grandkids.
Maybe a lot of the mannerisms I thought from these Italian people, I thought was very spot on. It was a very authentic movie.
Yeah,
especially with the way it was shot too. I thought it looked very realistic.
Great cinematography. Yes, I agree. And
great score too. I thought
I love that main theme. It's so ominous and like it sets
even without me not seeing the movie, I already knew that score. Yeah. It's one of those kind of scores.
Yeah, it's probably like one of the 3 iconic scores that's not done by John Williams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than maybe it being a little bit too long, was there anything that you'd say you really didn't like about it?
No, to be honest with you, I really like. You know me, I'm skeptical on most things when things are overhyped, and like I went into this movie all ready to pick it apart just to say it's not. But really, I was, for like the big majority of the beginning, I was very much floored by the movie. I'm trying to think of stuff I really had a problem with. Again, like maybe like there's some scenes that you could say like, you could leave that out. Like even like that whole subplot with him in Sicily or whatever. Like even that was a little too overdrawn or whatever.
Overdrawn, yes. I don't think you could cut that out.
No, but I think you could have. There's just a bunch of things that could have been done a little bit faster at a faster pace just to get on with it. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But it's also you also have to think of in terms of the style of filmmaking was a lot slower. No, I agree. When you're looking at this is just in my 2019 eyes.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm just saying context. And especially when you get to part 2, and that's 2.5 hours, or
So
3.5 hours.
This won Best Picture, correct?
Yeah, and so did part 2.
Wow, that's crazy.
I think that's the only movie and its sequel to win Best Picture.
There's only one of the Lord of the Rings won.
Yeah, Return of the King was the only one to win.
Yeah, no, I can't think of another one.
But you could definitely see when you watch something like The Godfather, you can just see how much influence it's had.
Oh,
in all the years since. That's one of the things that I love going back and watching these classic movies, is that especially when you see a lot of the pieces in all the different decades going back in the film, you could just kind of see how one sparked the other, and how you could see this chain reaction.
Well, just my favorite gangster movie is Goodfellas, and I could see that movie had a lot of influences from this movie.
Oh yeah, Martin Scorsese definitely took a lot from
all of his films. For
yeah,
the most. I mean,
absolutely.
some other ones that are a little scattershot, but. And watching this movie, the whole time I was thinking, I cannot wait for Irishman. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. That's gonna be cool. But yeah, you could totally see the influence in terms of craft. Like this is this is a very maturely made film.
Oh yeah,
and especially since Coppola at the time, he hadn't
really done anything.
No, he was not a huge renowned name. And for him to turn out something like this,
yeah.
And I love you never saw The Conversation, did you?
No.
You should. I think you would really like that movie. Gene Hackman.
I love Conversations.
The Conversation is
especially with women.
Excellent movie, and he made that.
Yep.
And The Godfather Part 2 both came out the same year.
Oh really? Ooh, that's comparable to like Jurassic Park and Schindler's List.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's weird that like he doesn't do anything anymore.
Well, like, he runs a winery now.
Well, I mean movies. Not
well, no, I know, but he made what he wanted to make, and he made a shit ton of money, and then decided he wanted to go do something else.
I don't know. I feel like it's just wasted talent at this point. Yeah. Well, I'd like to see him do one more movie at least.
Maybe
I know he did one in like the 2010 area. I saw. It's called Twixt with Ellie Fanning.
Oh,
it looked really fucking bizarre. It didn't have any good ratings, so I never watched it. But I think that's the last one he made.
Did you see The Rainmaker?
No.
That one was actually not that bad.
You need to watch Jack.
Oh
my god, that was horrible. That was the first Francis Ford Coppola movie I ever seen. I didn't even know he directed. I just thought that was just some junk movie. That was.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Rob Williams, but that was not.
Yeah.
That was not a good one.
But I'm thinking of a different director. But I thought I read not too long ago that Coppola's gonna be doing one more movie.
I think that was Carpenter.
Maybe that I might have been thinking of Carpenter.
Like a couple days ago, they said he might be.
You know what?
Back.
Maybe.
That's another person I would like to see. If these guys are alive, just fucking go make movies. Same with Tarantino. Like, I'm gonna retire after 10. No, you're not. You're gonna come back eventually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends what they got going on in their personal lives. I
understand taking breaks and stuff like that, but eventually everybody comes back to what they love. That's what I think.
Yeah. So, but when because Apocalypse Now is getting its theatrical re-release
I would
in August.
Potentially see that.
Apocalypse
How
Now,
long is this thing going to be?
I don't know. Long.
Longer than 3?
Probably.
Oh, man.
But Apocalypse Now is fantastic. That movie is so great. That is definitely my favorite Coppola film. But Conversation you should watch, and Apocalypse Now you should check out. And don't worry, Conversation's like under 2 hours.
Wow! There we go.
Is that incentive enough to see it now?
I'll put it in the queue.
Put it in the queue. Actually, I think it's on a streaming service somewhere.
Which one?
I don't know. Maybe Amazon? Oh, you don't have Amazon.
No, I do, actually.
Oh, you do?
Well, my brother has. I can snag his thing. Hulu sent me a free month for my birthday.
Oh, and not Vito.
Vieto guy?
Fredo.
Who?
Fredo.
Frodo?
Fredo. The brother... Oh. Yeah. The older brother who was in Nevada, he's in that movie. Oh. Because he was in Godfather 1, The Conversation, Godfather 2, and I think he had done one movie before that, and then he died. The actor died.
Oh, I remember hearing that on like the Campia show.
Yeah, that actor died like shortly after, so he was only in a few movies.
A lot of the actors in this
and
movie
he was in like
yeah.
3 of like the biggest.
Yeah,
it's crazy his career, but yeah, highly recommend The Conversation. That's an excellent film. But
what kind of movie is it?
It's like a mystery thriller. Basically, so Gene Hackman plays a guy who his job is that he spies on people and like he records them. So basically,
The Conversation.
Yeah, so people will hire him to go like record people and their conversations or whatever for intel, and so he just kind of records it and then gives it to people, and he gets paid for it. And he starts to come to grips with the morality of, well, when I give these people this information, what they do with that, and knowing that they're going to be killed by him delivering this audio. He comes to grips with like the morality of that and has to wrestle with whether or not he can or cannot do that.
I do love wrestling movies.
So it's a fantastic movie. So I highly recommend it. So that was the conversation talk here on Movie Paradise.
One thing you've never read the book, The Godfather,
No.
correct? I'd be curious to talk to someone that has read it to know like what's the similarities and the differences, because I've heard a lot of people say the book isn't that good. At least that's just what I've heard.
I mean, obviously it was good enough that they wanted to make a movie out of it, but I probably compared
like this is one of the like usually they say like the book's always better than the movie, but I feel like this is one of the situations where it's different.
Well, and the author of the book co-wrote the script to Coppola.
Oh, nice.
So you definitely have that influence, but it's one of those where like,
did they write a sequel book too, or just the sequel was just...
that I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know about that. I'm taking a shot in the dark, but I think it was only one book, but I don't know that well enough to say that definitively.
But hey, I mean, I won't quote you.
All right, good. And anyone listening might quote me, but
that scene where I thought they really built tension well when he had to go in the bathroom and get the gun.
Oh, that's probably one of my favorite scenes.
And
in the movie.
First sitting here, I was like, "Is it not in there?" I was like, he was reaching around for it. I was like, "Oh my god!" And then I mean, maybe I misheard them. Did they say like he was supposed to just leave the bathroom and then just shoot them right there and he didn't? And then he's sitting down and like the score's getting let, and the train noise is getting louder and louder and louder. I was like, "What the hell's gonna?"
I think that might be my favorite scene in the movie.
I'd say either that or like the whole beginning part at the wedding. Either those two.
That's great. But yeah, I love, especially because going what you were saying when he was searching for the gun. So he's searching for it, and then they cut to the table.
Yeah, and I thought they were gonna get up or something like that.
Yeah, the guy just like looks towards the bathroom, like, what's taking this guy so long? Yeah. And then he finds the gun, and then it keeps building the suspense. So I don't know if you heard this before, but Alfred Hitchcock had this story that he told and this saying about suspense in a movie. And he said, if there is a scene where there are two characters at a table and they're talking, and then suddenly everything explodes because there was a bomb under the table, that doesn't build suspense. That doesn't get you invested at all. That's not terrifying at all because it just comes out of nowhere.
I agree.
What makes it suspenseful is when at the beginning of the scene, you know that the bomb is under the table. And the whole scene, you're waiting for that bomb to go off because you do not know when the bomb is going to go off. That's what makes it suspenseful. And so the whole fact that we have the whole scene where they're talking about, okay, here's the plan. The gun is going to be in there. You're going to do this. The gun is going to be in there. You talk with them for a bit. Then you go to the bathroom. You'll get the gun. And then immediately start shooting. We know what the plan is supposed to be. And so as soon as things start deviating from the plan or look like they're deviating, that starts to create the suspense. So when we have the shot of him looking for the gun and it's not immediately there, that gives us like a... because we know it's supposed to be there. When he walks in and doesn't immediately start shooting but sits back down, that gives us something. Because imagine if we didn't hear all that, the plan, what the plan was.
Yeah.
It was all from the perspective of sitting at the table, and he's just there, and then he goes to the bathroom, and then maybe we don't even see him get the gun, and then he just comes back and starts shooting. The scene has a completely different impact.
Not even, like, the whole lead up to the scene, too, in the car ride over, like, when they're patting him down, and he takes the U-turn, all that stuff. It was just a very well-crafted scene.
Yeah. I thought they handled that really well. So I think probably... I might go with that as my favorite scene, but I also think one of my favorite parts is the whole baptism scene near the end.
Yeah.
When you're having the baptism, but at the same time they're knocking off all the bosses. Like, the way that builds tension, too, because you see, like, all the people getting into place, and especially the point in the baptism when they strike.
And that reminded me of in Goodfellas, too, when the scene where everybody was getting, like, shot off, too. Like, De Niro's character ended up getting killed, and, like, Samuel Jackson...
Oh, spoilers, forgot the Goodfellas.
But, that's a freaking... We'll
be doing that later in the month.
Yeah, and that whole scene, like, where just multiple killings with placed in another scene, I thought that was really cool, too.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think, especially when it's the part in the baptism, when that happens, when he's saying, do you renounce Satan?
Yeah.
And his deeds and his works or whatever, and all actions of Satan, and he says, I do. And then that's the moment where all the triggers get pulled and all that. I just thought that was so well built up and crafted and executed, no pun intended. Going into final thoughts, I think I don't necessarily agree with the notion, personally, that this is one of the greatest films of all time. I think in terms of the influence it's had, I think you can absolutely say it's been one of the most influential films of all time in terms of how movies are made now and how many movies and filmmakers have been influenced by this movie. There's no doubt about that.
Like, quotes. Like, there was a bunch of quotes.
Offer you can't refuse.
Yeah, leave the gun, take the cannoli. I knew that one. Like,
now, I don't know for sure the whole sleep... well, I know Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes. That's from there. I don't know if the term sleeps with the fishes, it comes from this movie, if it was before that.
Well, so, it's a funny thing you mentioned. I'll talk for a second.
A
person I work with was telling me that on the set of this movie, they actually had real live like mobsters watching the movie and watching how everything was crafted out for authenticity. And apparently someone, I don't know if it was Francis Ford Coppola or someone on overheard one of the mob people discussing business, and he heard them say tell him I'll make him an offer he can't refuse, and they used it in the movie.
Wow, I didn't hear about that, so I can't speak to if that's true or not, but I mean, it wouldn't shock me, considering knowing, especially from something like Apocalypse Now, how Coppola conducts his sets. It wouldn't surprise me that there were real mobsters involved.
Well, I think they didn't, apparently, this is what I heard, apparently, they weren't going to allow the movie, they were going to kill people if they weren't there, making sure they were... Yeah. The mob was being perceived in a good way or whatever,
or at least accurate way. Yeah, I don't think you can look at that and say, "Oh, they're the good guys."
Well, I essentially that they're not to be messed with, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean all those phrases, people know that now.
Yeah,
and and it's so cool. Make them an offer you can't refuse, and that's all really cool. But yeah, definitely I wouldn't say this is in my top 20. It's probably not from my top 50 favorite movies of all time. But the influence it's had since it came out in 72, undeniable. And the movie itself is really good. All great performances across the board. The story is really interesting. The way that it's shot, the craft behind the film is really good. It's very well directed, very well written. It could have been a little bit shorter. But I think it was... especially with the wedding taking up the first 45 minutes of the movie, I was like, okay, let's get out of the wedding. That.
To be honest with you, I thought the whole movie was going to be at the wedding just because of how long it was taking. I was like, oh, this just must take place in one day.
Yeah. I can see that. I think... so I was going to tell this story. So I have so the first time that I watched The Godfather.
Correct.
So... I rented the DVD from the library. and it was like a Sunday, and I was like, and the back of the DVD, I don't know why, but it said it was 90 minutes. Maybe it meant 190 minutes, I don't know, but it said 90 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch it. It's only 90 minutes. It's a Sunday afternoon. I've got some time. Sure, I'll watch it. And then sat down to watch it, thinking it was 90 minutes. I very soon realized that The Godfather was not 90 minutes long, and I spent the entire time watching it, waiting for it to end, not knowing when it would end, because I was like, okay, I gotta go get stuff done. Like, I need to move on. When's this movie gonna end? Find out it's like 2 90-minute movies rolled into one. That was an unfortunate first experience with The Godfather. But since then, now watching it knowing that it's 3 hours.
Yeah, at least I knew what I was getting into.
Would you have been pissed if I told you, oh yeah, it's not
I might have said, like, what the hell's going on here?
Or imagine we got to the hour and a half point and you're like, I thought the movie was only an hour and a half. I was like, I lied. Well, how much longer is there? Another hour and a half.
I don't know.
That wouldn't have gone well. But really like this movie a lot. I really enjoy The Godfather.
My final thoughts is, I respect everything in this movie, from the way it was made to the way it was acted. Would I consider it to be like one of my favorite films? Like you said, no, I wouldn't. But I understand why is it a classic and why it's held the test of time. And it's a movie, like, it's another movie I would say that this doesn't need a remake. I think it holds up in the way it's shot and the way like everything's acted. Like, I don't think anything's really old about it. Maybe just by kind of the pacing is the only thing that doesn't necessarily hold up. But this is one though I don't know if I'd ever really need to rewatch though again. Just because I think I saw it and I'm good with it. Yeah. And for the sequel, I don't know when I will get around to that, but I would be interested in watching it, to be honest with you. Yeah. I would like to. Does the sequel, is it like pretty much a direct tie-in with this movie, or is
so it cuts back and forth between following De Niro, who is a young Vito Corleone when he first arrives in America, and then that's cut between Michael Corleone as the new head of the business, and what's going on with him. So it cuts between the two stories. All right. And it's, I think when I saw it, I said at the time, I need to see this a couple more times to be sure. But I do think I like the first one more.
Have you only seen it once?
Yeah. So I've seen Godfather 1 like 3 times. And I saw the second one once, and I haven't seen the third one.
I mean, if I watched the first 2, I'd probably just end up watching the third one at that point.
Yeah.
I wonder how long that one is.
I think it's shorter. Actually, I'm curious. I'm going to look it up. I think it's definitely shorter.
Well, didn't it come out like 10 years after the second one? I think it came out in the 90s.
Yeah, so Godfather 1 was 72, Godfather 2 was 74, and then 3 was 90, 1990. Yeah. And the third one was 2 hours and 42 minutes. Okay, so shorter. But take this into consideration. Godfather 2 is 3 hours and 22 minutes.
But, I mean, you know me, I like to give a score. I think I'd go a solid 4 out of 5 for this one.
I think that's what my score is, too.
Nice.
4 out of 5. Good, solid movie. Liked it a lot.
Yep.
Well, that has been our discussion of 1972's The Godfather. Once again, I'm your host, Nathanael Molnár. I'd like to thank Rob Giachinta for being here for this.
Anytime.
So next week, we will be watching and discussing Scarface. Also starring Al Pacino. So Al Pacino is in 2 of the movies that we will be watching. I do as well, especially in Jack and Jill.
No.
His best performance
Honestly,
yet.
This is like the year for Al Pacino. He's got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. He's got that new Amazon show where he's like a Nazi killer or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then he's got the Irishman.
Yeah. So he's in some
I'm glad he's doing some more credible work.
What, you don't call Jack and Jill
Jack
credible?
and Jill. There was another one too that stunk. I can't remember.
I think him and Jack and Jill is the definition of selling out.
Oh, well, there was another one that came out after that called Danny Collins. I don't know if you ever heard of it. That was actually a pretty good movie. I'll give him credit for that one. But yeah, no, Jack and Jill that is an atrocious movie.
Well, anyways, we'll be watching Scarface next week, so make sure to watch that film and then join us for the discussion, which will drop on Saturday, as new episodes of Movie Night Tonight drop every single Saturday, which you can find on YouTube, on Spotify, and on iTunes. So if you go to any of our social medias at Movie Night TNT, that's Movie Night TNT, there you can get the links to all of those to find all the previous episodes and all upcoming episodes. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of Movie Night Tonight as we discussed The Godfather. And until we talk about Scarface next week, thanks for listening.